Rob, let's go to baseball, your favorite sport, and CC Sabathia, who you know well. I saw him about a month or so ago and talked to him. I actually talked to him about Ohtani, too.
Yep.
But he said something I'm sure is very controversial on MLB Network recently. Here he is.
You got to give him the MVP. The guy's, he's
so you're going Shohei over Judge.
I am.
Well, if he won it last year, he's arguably having a better year
than last year.
And
I understand everything that Judge is doing. I think it's going to be incredible to watch him, chase down 61 in the Yankees uniform. And if it wasn't for him, they would probably not even be in the playoff picture. But this guy is literally the best player that we've ever seen.
Yeah, and I think we take him for granted because he won MVP last year. We see what
so you're like, oh no, he don't need to win MVP. Yes, he does.
All right. CC couldn't be more wrong. Sorry. He couldn't be more wrong, Chris. He even said it. If Aaron Judge with the Yankees, they wouldn't even be in a playoff conversation. That's the MVP. That's what makes him special. I'm sorry. The best player we've ever seen batting .265 lifetime. I don't want to sit here and undress Ohtani and act like he's a bum, Chris, okay? I'm not. What we're seeing, we haven't seen. Because most people weren't around to see Babe Ruth play, okay? So we haven't seen it.
And remember, Babe didn't even win 10 games.
Right. But I mean, nobody else has been doing this since then. You know what I'm saying? That's the Babe Ruth reference. Not that Babe had nearly the success on the mound that Ohtani's had.
He kind of did it separately.
Right.
When he was pitching, he was great, and then he became
the Sultan of SWAT. My point, though, Chris, is Ohtani hasn't played in a meaningful game in a couple of years. It's easy, and I'm not saying easy to hit, but Chris, when the game's not on the line, you can get your at-bats in, you can do what you want, you can take chances on pitches. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're in a big game and they need
But do you think they're thinking that?
No, I just know the approach, sure. The approach.
I don't think you go out there. If your team is bad, I still don't think you're going out there thinking, I can just swing away. You're still trying to get hit for average, hit for power, whatever your thing is.
You have a different approach because if you're Judge or you're in somebody who's in a close game, this might not be the moment I could just swing for the fence. I need to make contact. I need to put the ball in play. That's not the case.
Well, but nowadays, is that how much of I hear you, because I mean, it's just a matter of wins and losses. If they lose, it's not a big deal anymore to the Angels. And I know they want to go out there and win. I hear you, but I still think an individual's approach. I mean, how many guys? I know dudes still do sacrifice flies and things like that, but it's not like it used to be.
There's no pressure at bats. You're 40 games under 5. There's no pressure at bats.
So what do you do with Mike Trout? And I'm not talking about now that he's hit 7 homers in 7 straight games. But Rob, we know that a couple years ago, some people were saying he might be the best we've ever seen.
It's amazing how they went from that. Right, he's been in the playoffs once. It's amazing right now. Now Ohtani. People are saying he is. I think this is just prisoner of the moment, Chris. His body of work isn't long enough to say he's the best player. I know a lot of people will want to still vote for him because he does 2 things, and I don't think it's fair. I really don't. I think Aaron Judge has carried the Yankees all year long, in and out, even when they were struggling. And here's the other part of Ohtani, if you want to talk about him being MVP. When his manager got fired, Chris, they lost 14 games in a row with Ohtani playing. He was pitching every 5th day. He was playing, batting 4 out of 5 days or whatever it was. He couldn't get them a win. He couldn't, there was a point in the season that could have saved the manager, could have saved the season, and it didn't happen. I don't think he's MVP this year. Well, that doesn't mean he's not one of the best players in the league, but it would be a travesty. This sounds like when all the people were trying to talk people out of giving Miguel Cabrera the MVP of the American League when he won the Triple Crown, and they wanted to give it to Trout, and his team didn't make the playoffs. It didn't happen, Chris, because Miguel Cabrera won the MVP that year, but I was fighting off the pocket pencil protectors or whatever they call those
pencil
cats.
Pushers.
You know what I mean?
Pencil pushers. Hey, yeah, look, I hear you, and I think I would vote for Judge if I were a voter. The thing I'm more interested in CC saying is that Ohtani's the best we've ever seen.
Right.
And I agree with you in that it's way too early. I mean, you got to do it much longer than he's done it. But I do think, Rob, like, I've said it, and it's just, I think you agree. In baseball, man, the winning one player. Now, what if you switch Judge and Ohtani? You think the Angels are much better? I think the Yankees are still basically what they are.
Yeah, I'm not so sure because, when Stanton went down, they struggled offensively. Judge was the only guy who held it together to keep them from totally collapsing, if you remember.
That was just a stretch, though.
Right. But I'm saying I'm not Ohtani, if we took Ohtani separately, Chris, separately.
Just in a vacuum, away from winning,
no,
you mean?
I mean, no. I'm talking about
as a hitter
him as a pitcher and him as a hitter. He's not the best either one.
Agreed.
He's not the best pitcher and he's not the best hitter.
Agreed.
That's why he can't be the best player. He's not even the best hitter if you were to look at him just as a hitter, Chris. And he would be a third starter on a lot of teams.
What if he only hit? Who was it the other day? Rob G, who was it? Somebody said the other day, if he just pitched or if he just hit, he would be ridiculous. There was a quote somebody said.
I disagree.
I don't know.
I disagree. I don't think he would. I think if he...
You don't think he'd be any better as a hitter if he just focused on hitting?
I'm not so sure he's going to go from a 265. He's been in the league for a few years, Chris. 265. He batted 190 one year, the 2020, when they only played 60 games. I'm just saying... Let's not make it like he's been batting 320 like when Ichiro came from Japan. Go look at his numbers when he came. Yeah, but
guys don't – I mean, it's a different approach now for guys.
Judge is hitting over 300 now. Judge is 6 points batting average-wise, 6 or 7 points away from the Triple Crown. He leads in RBIs, he leads in home runs, and he's 6 points in batting average behind the leader in the American League.
There's no doubt that Judge is a better hitter. But Judge ain't pitching. That's CC's argument. And again, he goes too far to say he's the best we've ever seen because he's only done it for a few years. But, I mean, if you had a guy, Rob, let's say Micah Parsons. We know how good he is, right? Let's say he was a running back and could run for 1,100 yards. He's not the best in the league, not top 5 in rushing, but he's going to give you 1,100 yards rushing. Would it be fair to say he's the best player in the league? Even though he's not the best defender or the best runner, but he's really good at both.
I get because he's a dual threat, he gets extra points, and people are going to say, well, because he's impacting both. I get that, even with Ohtani. But I'm sorry. Being in a last-place team where your season was over in May and getting up to the plate, it's like, and just taking your rips and going out there, you're playing pressureless. There's no big at-bats. There are no big games. I think that you have to factor in it's the biggest difference between just going out and playing. And if you're that talented, Chris, with no pressure, you can perform because you're good. And there is no pressure to win that game. There is no pressure to knock in that run with 2 outs in the bottom of the ninth. If they lose, they lose, and it ain't no big deal. Ain't nobody coming to your locker and asking you why you've lost 8 games in a row. That's all they do is lose every night. So I'm not buying it. As much as I respect what Ohtani's done, he's not the best player we've ever seen. He's not the best hitter, and he's not the best pitcher. Okay,
but
he's not.
Again, I don't think CC would say I don't think anybody would say he's the best pitcher or best hitter in the league. But when you combine both, and I think, look, if that's going to be your judgment, then, I mean, Tony Gwynn made it to the playoffs 3 times. Rod Carew made it to the playoffs 4 times. Like, I don't know, Ken Griffey, how much were they? They made it a few times when he was in Seattle. Ken Griffey Jr.
Tony Gwynn won like 8 batting titles. Like, well,
right. But he didn't pitch. He was a better hitter than Ohtani, but you're not factoring in the pitching, which is what CC say. And I agree with you. He's not the best ever. But Rob, if he does let's say he does what he's doing for the next, roughly for the next 15, 18 years. I mean, that's his career, and he generally does this. You don't think there's going to be an argument that he was the best player we ever saw?
Can I tell you this? I guarantee you, Chris, he will pick one of the two in the next couple of years. He will not do both. Watch.
Why?
He will, because I just don't think that you could sustain it, and especially if you could be an ace instead of a third starter, which he is. If you could be the best hitter instead of being a 265 hitter who has some great power, but you aren't like, why would you diminish? You're diminishing. He could be the best hitter in the league, Chris. Or if he's that good on the mound, he could be Jacob deGrom or an
pretty
ace.
Good, and he's pitching pretty well. His ERA is really low.
But that would put you, if you're a true ace, and that would give your team a better chance to win if you're on the mound every 5th day and that's your focus. Or if you're going to be a hitter every day. I don't believe that playing both ultimately is going to help a team win. He needs to probably at some point. Well,
now that's a good question. That's a good question. To the point we were talking about earlier, Ken Griffey Jr., Rob, all those years in Seattle when he was probably the best player in the league, made the playoffs twice.
Chris, but the difference is Ken Griffey Jr. has how many home runs? He has magic numbers.
He won 4 home run titles, but he wasn't pitching. Look, I'm not trying to argue that Ohtani's better than these guys. I guess I'm kind of arguing against the notion that because his team isn't winning, he's not as great.
I think winning
I don't think
matters.
That works in baseball.
I think winning matters, and I think playing in games that matter. I think there are a lot.
But okay, did you feel that way about Ken Griffey Jr. when he was in Seattle? He only made the playoffs twice.
No, but he has other numbers, Chris, that put him on that plateau. No, he's not even close to those numbers.
He's doing both.
No, I'm just Chris.
Come on, man, you selling the dude short.
No, I'm not. I just don't think he's the greatest player. I think CC's wrong.
Well, he's wrong that he's the greatest player ever. I agree with that.
He said the greatest player we've ever seen.
Yeah, that's wrong. I mean, that's wrong. But I'm just saying if he keeps this up, it's interesting